The burned wreck of Daphne Caruana Galicia's car lies in a Maltese field.
Some feel her murder is a sign of threats to freedom of speech.
The life of Malta's best-known blogger and investigative journalist was cut short on Monday. Most assume the car bomb that took her life was connected to the aggressive work she had done calling out corruption in Malta.
I think Daphne was not only a journalist and an absolutely fearless human being, but a fourth pillar of our democracy.
Her work exposed offshore financial dealings, often involving prominent political and business figures in Malta, including the Prime Minister's inner circle. But the outcry over her death has been felt far beyond the small island.
We are horrified. The right of a journalist to investigate, ask uncomfortable questions, and report effectively is at the heart of our values.
Some of Galizia's investigations were based on the so-called Panama Papers data leak. Confidential details of more than 200,000 offshore accounts, including the names of more than 600 Canadians, were revealed by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. Harvey Cashore was one of the Canadian journalists involved. He's also senior producer at the Special Investigations Unit of CBC News. Harvey, when you heard about what happened to Daphne, what was your first reaction?
Well, the first reaction was I belonged to the ICIJ listserv, and my iPhone started lighting up, and everybody was, what's going on, what's happening? And literally all the members were hearing this news for the first time, and we're all working on offshore stories from time to time, and this was like, this is close to home. I didn't know her personally, but her son is on the ICIJ, and it felt like a member of the family had this happen to them.
As you say, you worked on the Panama Papers project, as did she. She wasn't part of that initial group, but she was a part of many journalists around the world who started to follow the threads that you and others had helped expose.
Yeah.
When you feel that sense of connection, as you say, even with someone you don't know, but who's someone who's sort of sharing the cause of journalism with you, how closely does this bring this?
Well, that's right. We've been doing offshore stories now for 5 or 6 years and looking at, when you go offshore, you're going to secrecy jurisdictions. And it's not just tax avoidance and maybe tax evasion. You're talking about organized crime and all kinds of, activities that get you to
people who have a lot at stake.
A lot at stake. And they don't want they've gone to those offshore jurisdictions to get secrecy, to buy secrecy. And we've been exposing that secrecy, and they don't like it one little bit. Now, we do our stories, we report, we watch the world react, but now we're seeing just how far people can go when they don't like our journalism. And
you and I have talked about this in the past, that people will ask us, is this work dangerous? And that we sort of sit here in Canada and think it's not, and yet moments like this.
Well, really, and people ask me that question all the time, don't you find your work dangerous? And I'm like, are you kidding? I don't go to war zones. I don't cover conflict areas. My work is not dangerous. I always say that. And yesterday, for the first time, I felt maybe I don't want to be melodramatic, but that is melodramatic, and maybe it is dangerous, and maybe we are hitting areas we don't really realize the significance and importance of it, that we are really affecting people with big secrets, and look what can happen now.
The other part to this that one of our colleagues mentioned to me earlier today as we talked about this was that sense that when the ICIJ, for instance, is working on a project that's drawing in journalists around the world, there's that sense of safety in numbers.
Exactly.
And that we're dealing with sort of a level playing surface. But we are working for organizations, CBC, the BBC, The Guardian, that are large. She was on her own, essentially.
On her own, that's right. And you're exactly right. The ICIJ was brought together to share information and research and facts before publication. And this is a unique thing in journalism, that you weren't guarding your secrets anymore. You were sharing them with a community of journalists to get the biggest impact and to have others all over the world share and develop those stories. And so we felt like a family, a big family of journalists. We've been meeting internationally. And so, yes, but we belong to the CBC. We have resources beyond ourselves. We have programs we go on to deal with safety issues, and yet here was a journalist who was a blogger, had no significant resources, and look who they targeted. And so we're realizing how vulnerable some people can be in this family of ours.
Do you think that this experience, what's happened to her, is going to frighten journalists away from pursuing these stories? That would be reasonable on the one hand.
Right.
Or does it cause people to redouble their efforts because, where there's smoke, there's fire? Somebody is afraid of what she was working on.
I know from that ICIJ listserv I told you about, that to a person, there wasn't a single person that said that. They said, it convinces us to go on further. It's giving us a reason to continue to keep on, and to do the opposite would be, would be making whoever did that win. And so this, in fact, is, you know, I don't mean to be flippant about it, because it's not, but this has encouraged us to dig down deeper, to keep at it. And frankly, it's told us that, you know, for everyone who tells us, why are you doing offshore stories? Why are you doing them? You know, they don't resonate, they're complicated.
Exactly.
This is the answer. This is why we're doing those stories, is because this matters to power, to abusive power, and to secrets that the public, frankly, has a right to know. And we're going to keep on doing it, and we're not going to give up.
Harvey, thanks.
Thank you.